Peace that surpasses all understanding. Um, Trading punches and black dahlias. Um, where this really goes is has a lot to do with love. Love, how people love us, and how we love others. And a couple of experiences that I had um, over the course of my life where I wasn't the easiest person to love. Back in my drinking days, I would classify myself. Excuse me. Hey. um, I would classify myself as a sloppy drunk, sloppy. I love you, man, kind of drunk. Uh, Give us a hug, kind of drunk. For the majority of my drinking career. But at the end of my drinking career, it was quite a bit different. It was dark, um, heavy. Um, there was no oblivion or bliss to my drinking. It was passing out. It was I had to drink just to maintain a baseline. The power of addiction, and there were two very pivotal experiences I had at the end of my drinking. And the reason that this is coming up now, um, my first time getting sober was October 21st in 2001. I relapsed in 2006 and got sober again. It was somewhere around the middle of August. I'm really not sure, but August 14th, somewhere around there in 2006. But my first set of getting sober that was my original sobriety date, October 21st, 2001. And in the months leading to that, I had a couple of experiences that were red flags. Straight up, just red flags in self-awareness. Like there really is. I had suspicions prior to these two experiences, but love was expressed to me in such a way that I was like, whoa, it was. But the first experience, trading punches. I had some friends up. There's yearly. There is it's something called Bike Week, where anybody who has a Harley Davidson goes to a place called Laconia, New Hampshire, Weirs Beach, and they knew I lived in. These were two friends that I had back when I still lived in Massachusetts, and they were coming up for Bike Week to Laconia, which is several hour drive, several hour ride on motorcycles, 4 hours, 5 hours from that part of Massachusetts. So they came to my house in Maine as kind of like a midpoint pit stop kind of thing. And we went out that night, and I was heavy. I was at the end of my drink, and I was to suggest that I was depressed would be an understatement. My whole life, I could not function without alcohol in my life. The shakes, things like that. Outwardly, I was still functioning. I was holding down a job. I ran a business. Da 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 da. But inwardly, I was crumbling fast. And these two friends that came up from Massachusetts, we hadn't seen each other probably in 6 months or a year. Um, and So what are we gonna do? And there's a saloon. There, at least there was in it was either in Dover or Somersworth, New Hampshire. It was called Loud Pipes Saloon. It was a biker bar, And we have this conception of there. What's the what is it, that movie, John Travolta, Tim Allen, Wild Hogs? You know, these weekend warrior bikers. Yep. Okay, so there's those kinds of bikers, and then there's bikers, like motorcycle gangs, as one might think of the Hell's Angels. Okay, and this particular bar was more like that. Um, and so, you know, what are we going to do? They rode their bikes up. You know, their asses had fallen asleep, and you know, they were ready to sit in a car. So we loaded up in my car, and I drove them. We went up to Loud Pipes, and true biker bar, and you know, they were, you know, we were all kind of heavy hitters as far as our drinking went, and but I was not in a good space, man. I was not in a good space in the whole big scheme of things, and I would even venture. It was, I'm reminded of a scene in Shawshank Redemption with Morgan Freeman and Tim whatever, and he says something about get busy living or get busy dying, and that kind of was like, you know, I knew where my drinking was at those in that at that point, and I walked into that biker bar with a big chip on my shoulder and looking to get into trouble, and not just trouble, but I wanted, you know, I was looking for trouble. So we got there, and we were all, you know, we were all doing our thing and drinking, and in that experience, being under the influence and being in the emotional mindset that I was in, um, looking to pick a fight, looking to get my ass kicked. I wanted somebody, you know, at least figure, you know, I was a little suicidal, and I started overtly making passes at some of the bikers' girlfriends to poke the bear. And it didn't take long before they picked up on it, and they knew I was with these two other guys, and a group of them got together, and they're like, "Get your friend out of here, or we're gonna kill him." And you know, I was being completely drunk and obnoxious, and I remember this. This didn't happen in a blackout. I did black out eventually, but um, anyway, um, you know, get your friend out of here. So they pulled me out of that place and loaded me in the back seat of my car, and we were driving back from this saloon back to my home, and I had kind of half-ass passed out, blackout, brown out, gray out, whatever you want to call it, in the back seat. I was still somewhat aware, but my two friends, being who they were, um, they used to kind of like play this game, trading punches, and the whole idea of the game is that the game, if you want to call it a game, um, they had some experience with boxing and martial arts and things of that nature, and karate and whatever, and it was pretty brutal, man. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty brutal. You know, I saw some where basically the nature of the game was, I hit you, I punch you in the arm, in the shoulder, in the face, in the gut, and you know, and then the other guy punches back, and you keep escalating until one guy, you know, calls timeout. All right, you win. You know, but it got pretty brutal. You know, these were full. This wasn't joking around. They were slamming each other, and even though they were driving, the two of them were sitting in the front seat. One was driving, one was in the passenger seat. They began to trade punches in the front seat, you know, in a more light-hearted manner, I guess, if you know, you want to call it light-hearted. And the guy that was sitting in the passenger seat I was kind of stern about. I was kind of semi-aware of what was going on, and I never engaged in the whole trading punches thing. That was not something that I particularly enjoyed. Um, and the guy in the passenger seat uh, reached around and punched me in the thigh like a Charlie horse. That's all I needed, man, because I was already on edge, and I lost it. I lost it, and I freaked out in the car. I freaked out in the car. We're doing 70, 80 miles an hour down the highway, um, and I freaked out, and I jumped into the front seat of the car while he was driving, and proceeded to beat the shit out of both of them while he was doing 70 miles. Anyway, we had a he spun out. We ended up in a ditch on the side of the road, and that's basically like the last thing I remember. Like I was into my, going into my blackout. I do remember jumping into the front seat. After that, I don't have any recollection. Anyway, coming to the next morning, um, it was fall or nicer weather, spring or summer. It was nicer weather. The windows were open, and I could hear um, mumbling outside about they were uh, they were talking to my former wife at the time about locate a where could they locate a travel trailer to load up the motorcycles that they were leaving. We're gone. We're out of here. And I heard my name mentioned a few times, but I couldn't discern what they were talking about. I knew some shit. I as I came to that morning, as many of us who have maybe had some horrific experiences while we were drinking, as I was coming to, I was putting the puzzle pieces together, hearing the conversation outside, and making my way very cautiously downstairs to see what the damage was. And I went outside to where they were, and um, I got the evil eye, man. I got the evil eye. And one of the guys came over and he said, yeah, we're leaving, dude. We're out of here. We're out of here. And I just, I kind of knew why, because of the experience from the last night, and the looks on their faces, including my wife at the time, the utter disappointment and shock and awe and being aghast by my behavior. And the two guys, they had some bruising, let's just put it that way, and I'm like, oh my God, crushing, demoralizing, soul crushing moments of, these red flags, of what my drinking was doing to my life. And so I cowered. I put my tail between my legs. I went back in the house, made a coffee, went back up to bed, and I'm like, better to kind of stay away. Give them their space out of my own shame and embarrassment. Give my, go hide, Um, but whatever, they laid their hands on a truck, loaded up their bikes, and I worked up enough courage to go outside to say goodbye. And one of the guys came over and he extended his hand to me. And he said, thanks for putting us up. And, we're heading out. And, and I did a half-ass apology. Hey, I'm sorry about last night. And this is where it got me, man. This is where it got me. Got me in the heart. He just looked at me and he was still holding my hand, like shaking my hand. And he looked at me square and dead nuts right in the eye, and he goes, you're a much nicer person when you don't drink. Ouch. Ouch. There was no, and express, the way I perceive it now, even though everything that had happened the night before and all of the chaos and the drama of that experience, the tenderness and caring and love in his voice for me, his friend, seeing me spiral out of control and having the courage on his part to call me out on my shit, you know. In the moment, it was a soul-crushing blow. But in retrospect, the courage that he demonstrated and the admiration that I had, that I continue to have even today, for his compassion for me is beyond words. You know, it's beyond words. The second, and that definitely led me to my sobriety. There was two of these experiences in very short order. Now, you might think that I quit drinking because of that. Nope, game on, man. Game on. Later that day, man. Later that day, my head was pounding so bad. The only way I could level out was by having some drinks. Return to my baseline, because otherwise I'd be, my head be pounding, my body'd be shaking. I was that kind of alcoholic, at the end. So this is, and at that time, my drinking, it was daily drinking, and I didn't have the sense enough to just go buy a case of vodka. I went to the store every day. And at the time, it was a grocery store, a shop, big grocery store, and in Maine, the grocery stores are liquor stores as well. They have liquor licenses. Now, you may have heard, these, at least I know I've heard in my experience in my recovery program, where people, to avoid embarrassment or anybody finding out about, how much they drank, they would have several different places that they would go so that nobody would see how much they were drinking. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. So every day I would go to this grocery store very close to my house, very close, a quarter of a mile. But I would go to this grocery store, go make a beeline right for the liquor aisle. And pick up my handle of vodka. And that was the end of my drinking days. I was it wasn't the slender bottle, it was the handle bottle of vodka. I think that's like a half gallon. I was drinking that much. It was, if any of us have seen Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage, I have a lot of resonance with that movie. The quantities, the absolute vulgar quantities of booze that I was consuming, it was just mind-boggling. What would kill a horse, that's where my tolerance level was. But I kept going back to this same grocery store, and I live in a very touristy area, and this area, tons of hotels, tons of resorts, etc., etc., etc. And what a lot of these places would do is they would hire travelers. And that particular year, there had been travelers from this particular year. The majority of the travelers that they hired were from Jamaica. And I mean, a huge amount of folks. Our population, went from, let's just say, 10,000 people in this area, year round, to 1 million, in the course of a weekend, and game on tourist season, and there just wasn't enough help in the area, so they would hire folks from other parts of the world, and they'd get to travel and see different parts of the world and have a job and whatever. But there was this one particular woman. It was like the speed checkout at her queue, 12 items or less or whatever, and and she was always on that register. on that cash register in that queue, which was in immediate proximity to the liquor section. So on a daily basis, man, I'd go in there, pull my handle, go to the cash register daily, daily. And it was always the same woman, always the same woman. And she saw me in all varying states of dis-ease. You know, sometimes I was drunk already and I was in a good mood, and sometimes I was, you know, whatever. But she knew what was going on. She knew what was going on. And beautiful, beautiful, robust figured, dark skin, almost blue, indigo or purple sheen to her skin. Beautiful smile. And every time I walked up to the queue, it just this amazing smile. But I remember even, you know, in that moment, I'm like, what the fuck are you smiling about? You know, like it hurt. It hurt to see her smile. I look back on it now and I'm like, she was just stunningly beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful black woman. Warm and loving, you know. And I don't know, you know, whatever, man. I'd been going there for forever, you know. And this one particular day, and I was in a state, you know. I was maybe, you know, I do remember I was feeling particularly twitchy. I was depressed. I probably had a raging hangover, blah-de-da-de-da, you know. And I walk up and I put my handle down on the conveyor belt, and she looks up at me, and she paused, and you know, she made eye contact with me, and I looked down. You know, I couldn't make eye contact with people at that point. The level of shame and self-disgust was just, it was unbearable, you know. And in a deep, rich Jamaican accent, she said to me, "Mister, why is your heart so bad that you drink so much?" Damn. You know, and this is all within, like, you know, the trading punches incident and this incident were, you know, within a couple of months of each other. Beautiful black woman, expressing her compassion and her caring and her warmth and her kindness to a hurting soul. I was crushed, you know. I was crushed. And that comment, "Mister, why is your heart so bad that you drink so much?" In that moment, I had a few choice thoughts about how to respond to that. Thankfully, I didn't open my mouth and insert my foot. I remained silent because the shame was just so great. But, you know, hindsight again is 2020, and that beautiful, wonderful, amazing smile. We may know people who, you know, some people smile like this, and then some people smile and their whole face lights up. Their eyes smile, their forehead smiles, you know, their ears smile, you know. And that was her. And her name was Dahlia. Beautiful black Dahlia from Jamaica. And how do we love people? You know, we have this perception of when we love people, it's presence and it's expressions of affection and hugs and gifts and, you know, romantic dinners and these like more like being in love, or the feelings of feeling loved by your family, you know. These two people, you know, in my darkest days, you know, they showed up, and their courage and their love, their loving hearts, you know, the initial moment of crawling out of that hole, hearing their voices, crawling, it was very painful. It was very painful in that present moment. But I'm getting goosebumps, man. I'm getting goosebumps. I don't know if can you see that? The tenderness, the love, and that was love, man. They were loving a stranger, I mean, well, my friend, um, but these two people who showed up in my life, and just their warmth and compassion for another human being. And in more recent days in my life, the last couple of years, coming up on 3 years, man, it's amazing. It's amazing. Um, Coming up on, I'm sorry, 2018. So November 15th ish. I had an experience, but the people that have shown up in the last couple of years, I am just not every time. Some people love us with encouragement, and sometimes they're loving us, calling our bullshit out. But I have had the good fortune to find myself in a position of to love others with my words or deeds or reactions, or sometimes it's simply holding somebody's hand or listening, just listening. How do we love? And to have other people show up in my life who mirror and reflect me. Not all of it is always what is it, butterflies and rainbows. But when we see through our own distortion, and that these folks in our life are loving us unconditionally with such care and compassion and warmth and empathy, it just blows me away, man. It blows me away. And those are the moments in my life that make life worth living, and these people that have shown up in my life who not only give wholeheartedly, but receive in such a humble and grateful way. It's mind-boggling. This way is better for me. This way is better for me. And with that, I wish you a peace and a love that surpasses all understanding. It's going to be a good day, and so grateful for the people in my life. I really am. Whether they be, 2 feet away from me or 3,000 miles away. Peace, you guys. I'm out.